All right, namaste and welcome to today's webinar where we have HUA students presenting their research contributions at the World Sanskrit Conference. Our speakers are Dr. Ashutosh Parikh, Sri Sridhar Chintalapati, Sri Sriram Subramanianji, and Srimati Hemashri Madhubushiji. Sorry, Sridharji. Glad to have you on, though. I know we went back and forth a little bit, and we're looking forward to today's webinar where our distinguished faculty and graduate students are going to share their experiences, some of the research that they presented. It was the 19th World Sanskrit Conference held in Kathmandu in Nepal. It was in June between the 26th and the 30th, so they've had some time to return to their home bases and get settled back in. But this World Sanskrit Conference, this 19th conference, was a landmark international gathering that brought together Sanskrit scholars from around the world. And HUA, Hindu University of America, we were proudly represented by our panelists. Sridharji, Shriramji, Hemashri and Bibekji, I don't think he has joined yet, and Dr. Parikh. I think also Dr. Sampadananda Mishra was also there. He hasn't joined us for this webinar, but he'll present something else later. In this webinar, what we are going to have, though, each of our panelists will present kind of the essence of their research. Maybe they have a focused area of study, and they're going to get into that. And so we're going to explore ancient wisdom through a modern lens and applying Sanskrit, which is pretty amazing. You know, they used to say it's a dead language, but it's vibrant, it's evolving, and we have faculty and students who are researching it, using it, applying it, and doing cutting edge things with it. So we are glad to have our webinar kicking off today with our uh, students. Let me introduce, how should I go in order? Just briefly, I will introduce Dr. Parikh. Dr. Parikh is a faculty member at HUA in the Sanskrit Studies Department. He's a gold medalist and holds a PhD in Sanskrit literature. He also has a master's degree in education and has guided research at MDS University Ajmer. We are glad to have Dr. Parikh on with us today. Maybe you could turn on your camera in a little bit, Dr. Parikh. If not, it's, oh, there we go. Yes. Glad to have you on. All right. Next, let me introduce Shriramji. Shriramji is a friend. I think we first met at in person at that Waves conference or the Dharma in the Digital Age a little while ago. He's a doctoral student at HUA. He's an industry analyst by profession. He's an AI expert, and he's been doing interesting research on the role of AI in Hinduism and how it's represented in AI. His publications include academic papers, technical books, and even poems. So he's done a lot. Shiramji, glad to have you on, and we're going to hear more from you shortly. And then we've got Hemashriji, who is a doctoral candidate at HUA, and her research interests include the relevance and application of Dharma in the modern world. Hemashriji, it's a pleasure to have you on with us today. Sridharji, I know you've also been working on a book, Sridharji, also HUA. Glad to have you on with us today. So with that brief round of introductions, let me hand it to, I think, Dr. Parikh to get us started. Is that right? And then we'll hear, if you can give us some context about the conference, what it was like, the feeling of it, and then we'll get into each of your respective research. Yes.
Thank you, Ankurji, and thanks a lot, HUA, for inviting us for this platform also. And thank you all. I am very happy to see you again after Nepal visit. And that conference was very special conference for all of us, as a HUA student and as a HUA faculty also. And the conference was about the Sanskrit Indian knowledge system and the sciences in Sanskrit languages and scriptures. So it was very wide angle conference, we can say. And I was there as a presenter and as an IASS member also. So it was very fortunate for me to be there in that conference. I have presented basically two papers in that conference. If you want to hear about these two papers, then I can share you with some slides. Is it possible for me to share some slides?
Yeah, yeah. Please.
Okay.
So please also, I think you can leave your camera on while you share. Yeah. And so each of you will get, I guess, we'll hear if you have a slideshow or presentation, however you want to present, and looking forward to going in a little round with our panelists. I've got the next poll up. Let us know how you heard about our webinar, if it was through the email list or by friend or WhatsApp or whatever way you heard about HUA's webinar today. Ashutoshi, are you presenting? You can't see.
Yes, I'm trying to present my screen. It is possible. I have on the camera also. Uh, the sharing is not possible for me, Ankurji. Is it can you do something?
No, have you? Does it say not allowed? You should be able to.
I think some problem is there. So
Okay. Do you want to kind of? It'd be hard to do it without the slides. Do you want to circle back and see if we can figure it out and have Shriramji go next?
yes, definitely. I
All right.
think I think
All right.
yes.
So maybe you could also email it to me or link it to me and I can share it. So Shriramji, let's have you pick it up and present and again share your experience about the conference, how it was, how Nepal was, and what you've been doing at HUA broadly, and then maybe get into your research as well.
Absolutely. But before, can you hear me well?
Yeah, yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. Namaste. I'm Sriram Subramanyah. Mama Vrittihi Udyoga Vishleshakah. I mean, I'll keep it one or two lines as in Sanskrit and I'll move to English for the sake of the audience. But I thought of starting with Sanskrit, right? Aham Aham HUA Madhye Shodha Chatraha api. I As Ankuji introduced me, I am an industry analyst, a expert by profession. I'm also a doctoral student at HUA. I finished my MA Sanskrit through HUA in 2022. And if I'm not mistaken, I was among the second batch of MA Sanskrit from HUA, right, Ankuji? 2022 batch. And my interests broadly are around intersection of Sanskrit, Indic knowledge systems, and AI. And then at the World Sanskrit Conference, I presented a paper on the intersection of Sanskrit and AI, and more specifically, how it affects Sanskrit pedagogy. The session itself was very well attended, and that the audience was taken aback by what the current abilities of AI in terms of Sanskrit. Uh, that is not an understatement at all, right? When they saw that AI can, with using AI, one can compose poems, one can translate Sanskrit poems into other languages, one can do word by word, one can analyze verses word by word, identify meters, and more. The audience was pretty enthralled, and they were surprised and they were taken aback too. Of course, it's not perfect, and it does not obviate the need for learning fundamentals. My whole paper was about, despite these abilities, despite these capabilities, why does one need to learn the Sanskrit fundamentals? And that was the core topic, and that's why it was placed under Sanskrit pedagogy. Uh, Shortly, yes, it can do a lot more, particularly ChatGPT and other kind of GPTs. They have a lot more Sanskrit abilities than what you might expect, but it doesn't take away the need for learning Sanskrit fundamentals. One of the judges, one of the panelists, in fact, asked me, like, with all these capabilities, like, it can write poems, it can detect meters, it can translate. Is there a threat for Sanskrit pundits? Their jobs and roles might be replaced by AI. That's something that is not specific to Sanskrit. Most of the jobs outside, we are facing a possible threat and disruption using AI, and the Sanskrit experts is not an exception. One of the professors, I am forgetting their name, he was, in fact, asked me a very complex grammatical construct, see if Sanskrit ChatGPT can identify, and in fact, it did. But just my paper was just a snapshot, right? Overall, it was a very good experience. Apart from presenting papers, we had a chance to meet with the who's who of Sanskrit research all over the world. We were able to meet Parikh ji in person, Arun Mishra ji in person. All of us, all the students were able to spend some time with him. We also were able to spend time with Srinivas Varakedi ji, the Vice Chancellor of Central Sanskrit University, and folks like that, right? Like in various research. I want to just talk a little bit about the breadth, right? Parikjay mentioned about it. There were more than 20 plus tracks on various topics. Sanskrit pedagogy, Dharma Shastras, Vedas, Itihasas. We all presented across different tracks. And from India alone, there were like 400 students, just 400 students with thousands of participants from all over the world. And all these research students, almost all of the students from India, presented their papers in Sanskrit, a full 15, 20, 30 minute of presentation in Sanskrit, which was very impressive. It was very, very heartening to be in that environment where most of them are speaking Sanskrit. We're talking about various things that we're all working on, sharing notes and whatnot. But one thing that popped up is as an observer, right? Like I might be biased because I'm actually a student, but one thing that popped up in most of these Sanskrit presentations, invariably judges would ask this question: "What is your research question? Like, what is the focus? What are you trying to do?" And that is where, like, I would like to highlight the difference that papers from HUA, Hemashri G and Sridhar G would also add to that. You know what how we presented, how we are approaching, and how HUA has prepared us in solidifying our research topic and how do we write our papers. Those are all like market difference you can see in what we presented, how we presented, and some of the topics, most of the papers that we saw, yes, they were great in Sanskrit presentation skills, but in terms of research and writing, I would like to highlight that the kind of rigor that we have, that we get trained in HUA, makes a big difference. In short, we can say that HUA students can be a bridge between the rigorous Western academia and Indic Shastric experience. We are trying to be the bridge, and we can be the bridge. I'll leave it at that one. But I also want to bring up, of course, there were some controversial topics, or at least like one controversial paper that some of us attended. I don't want to go into that one, but if you have any questions, I'm happy to circle back on that one. But overall, it was a very good experience. And me personally, I also had a chance to launch my book, so Samritam. It's a collection of Sanskrit poems on Lord Krishna and Radha. So I was fortunate to have that opportunity there. With that, I will pass on to the next speaker, but we will stay here for any more questions. Anything around CFP or our own research topics or whatever you may have, please shoot. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for listening. Namaste.
Great. Thank you, Sriramji. Glad to hear from you. Who would like to go next?
It's up to you, Ankurji.
Okay. Hemashri, why don't you go next, and then we'll have Dr. Parikh. I just got his slides.
Okay. So do you want me to just start?
Yes, please.
Okay. So as Ankurji mentioned, I'm an HUA PhD candidate, doctoral candidate, but I'm also an MA Sanskrit student in my third year of 4 years. I'm doing the 4-year track. So let me give you a little bit about USC, and then I'll go into my paper. So this was my second experience at presenting at WSC, but it was a very different experience from last time. Last time, It was kind of the tail end of the pandemic, so we were all virtual. So this was the first time we were able to get like the full benefit of that in-person experience. Being that it was in Nepal, it was amazing because, there's wonderful temples, architecture, food, very friendly people. So it's always a pleasure to go to a place like that. And it seemed to be quite the event in Kathmandu, just an interesting incident. It started off on the plane itself, where the flight attendant made a call out to WSC attendees on the flight. So we were all really surprised. That was nice. The inaugural ceremony was a huge affair. Lots of luminaries, including the president of Nepal and all of that. There was like a ceremonial welcome with music and flowers and, the haldi kumkum, cultural programs and all of that. The academic part of the conference began on the second day. And so for the next 3 days, we were at this local high school where all these presentations were assigned to various classrooms. There were numerous parallel sessions, as Sriram had mentioned. And that was amazing in terms of, it indicated the level of interest and engagement with Sanskrit as a language and with our texts and darshanas. But it also made it very difficult for us to choose which sessions to attend. But it was just fantastic. The one thing that really stood out to me, and I think Sriram also alluded to this, was hearing Sanskrit being spoken all around us, kind of as a matter of course. People greeting each other in Sanskrit, conversing on topics, both mundane and profound. And as again Sriram mentioned, the level of scholarship from the students and the staff of the various Sanskrit university was humbling, to say the least. But at the same time, that environment makes one hopeful. Like you said, Ankurji, when people talking about Sanskrit being a dead language, you attend a conference like that and you feel that hope that, this is not true, because it is such a vibrant part of the lives of these people who are attending, at least. And the sheer breadth of subjects discussed, from Vyakarana to the Puranas to AI to the Vedas, from the ancient to the modern, and the relevance of all of these ancient traditions even to modernity. And the research scholars, some are famous, some not so famous, but the depth of knowledge their depth of knowledge of our Hindu texts is something that it's just mind-boggling to hear them speak and to kind of try to comprehend how much they really know. You don't really encounter this in our daily lives, at least here in the US. Most of the Indian and Nepali scholars presented in Sanskritam fluently, flawlessly. And the non-native speakers, like the Europeans and some of us, we spoke in English, of course. And on a personal level, as students of HUA, our engagement began like over a year ago when the call for proposals came in. We had an initial deadline in August last year. We were informed in January this year, and then we had a steady stream of deadlines, academic registration, hotel reservations, submitting papers, and so on. As a graduate student at HUA, my own journey began with discussing the topic with my professors, my advisors, Professors Bakchi and Adluri. And my paper that I ended up presenting was about Ajamila, the story of Ajamila in the Bhagavata Purana. And the title was, basically Poshana in the Age of Kali. So it's basically the story of Ajamila. And the significance of this is that, like I'd mentioned about this interest in dharma, this is about dharma samshaya, which is basically the doubts on dharma that this story presents. The general opinion is that this is about bhakti and nama bhasha, which it is, but most, especially Western scholarship, hasn't really thought it through on a deeper level. And that's where my paper came in. I was exploring it more from a Vedantic perspective to see, what other layers are present in this seemingly insignificant story, really. With Professor Bagchi, especially, I cannot thank him enough. He painstakingly and patiently guided me, reviewed my work at various stages of completion. That attention to detail, that rigor, the critical thinking that he holds us up to those standards, and that elevates the content of our papers and our writing. And without, of course, Dr. Adluri's courses and teaching, I would not have a topic or a paper. And nor would I have the Sanskritam skills without the CPSP program that I did before, where Chandrasekhar Raghuji, who helped us with Sanskrit. So I owe all of this to HUA, and the rigor of our training appeared to have struck a chord even with the attendees. I heard one of the European Indologists talking to her peers after listening to several of our presentations and said that HUA trains its students rigorously and teaches us to think critically. So it was really encouraging to hear, because that keeps us motivated towards going forward and trying to make a contribution. And it's encouraging, right, to believe that there is a role we can play in shaping the way Hinduism is viewed, the way our texts are understood and received, and and maybe, like Sri Ram said, acting as a bridge between what? The depth and breadth of expertise found in our Indian scholars, right? And the scholarship that is expected in the West. It doesn't mean that one is right or wrong. It's just that we can perhaps be the bridge and make a positive contribution. So I'm extremely grateful to HUA for making this possible, to my wonderful professors and to my peers who've contributed so much to my learning and growth these past few years. Without all of you, none of this would have been possible. Thank you so much.
Wow. Thank you so much, Himashriji. That was beautiful, well said. Appreciate the context and really how you brought the conference alive for us. Thank you so much for that, Himashriji. Sridharji, do you want to give like an overview first? Ashutoshi, I got your presentations. One's 40 slides and one's 24 slides. So I think Sridharji can give maybe his overview and just a little bit about his, and then we can probably do one of your presentations and you can decide which one.
All right. Namaste. My topic there was related to Dharma Shastra, specifically the Anubandha Chatushtaya of Dharma Shastra.
You are muted. Sridharji, you are muted.
We lost you.
Okay. Namaste. Was I muted all through? Okay. So
we heard Namaste Sarvebhyah, and then up to Anubandha Chatushtaya we heard.
I should not be fiddling with my keyboard. So one word that both Sri Ramji and Himashriji used, and it's a beautiful word. It captures our role very well, and that is the bridge. I'd like to add to it another word that we could use, adapter. What happens is that we grew up as insiders, or at least adjacent to insiders in that ecosystem, in that environment. There are certain implicit tribal knowledge that we imbibe. So now when we come here, and with our life experience in the West, with our life experience in whatever other subjects that we made our livelihoods, we go back to our roots. We have that unique perspective that neither an Indic scholar in India has, nor a Western scholar from the West has. And that's a very valuable position, because we can understand both sides, we can talk to both sides, and we can bridge that gap. We are the adapters that take the 220 voltage and translate it to 110. That said, let me jump quickly to what was presented. This was, let's say, it could have been a fairly controversial presentation, but happily it was well received. Let me quickly make a all right. So is my
No, yeah, now it's full screen. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So this was my topic, and the need why we should get into the Dharma Shastra self-definition. is shown in this picture. You can see that the definitions found in literature of over 250 years of Dharmashastra scholarship, they're all over the place. Is it narrow scope, universal scope? Is it norms for theology, for theological purposes, or is it a prescriptive legal code? And you can see, for example, Ambedkar is all the way to the top right, and a lot of other big names here. And you see that what I presented as the Dharmashastra self-definition is all the way to the bottom left, which is that it has an exceedingly narrow scope, and it is normative, and it is about norms for a theological purpose. One interesting thing I'd like to point out here, Professor Oliver, I put a star here because there are some parts where he tends to pull it to this side and some parts where he pulls it to the other side. But wherever there is an example, it's always to the top right. And that's why he's at the top right with a star. All right, so these are all the, an exploration into why their definitions may have been so different. And I specifically avoided going into, oh, it's a colonial outlook, simply because to me, that's almost like sort of like Godwin's law, right? You don't jump to that immediately. So these are their frames of references, and that is why Dharmashastra appears to them that way. And the picture up here, which many of you may have seen, is it a hare? Is it a duck? What is it? Depends on your frame of reference, where you came from. So having shown this, I said, you cannot apply your frame of reference to understanding what the Dharmashastra is about, because it is a Shastra, which means it has to have a coherent Anubandha Chatushtaya, right? The most important piece of that is Eka Prayojana Pratibadhar Dhajatasya Kritsnena Pratipadako Granthaha Shastram Yavat Prayojanam Noktam Tavat Tatkena Grihyate, right? If you don't express the purpose of the Shastra, who is going to listen to it? What's the use of it? And that is Kumarila Bhatta asking that question. In other words, meaning that that's most important. So the four indispensable elements of the Dharmashastra, this is the Anubandha Chatushtaya. You all know perhaps Vishaya, Prayojana, Adhikari, and Sambandha. These are the English translations for that: substantive context, soteriological, jurisdictional, doctrinal, right? And what does that mean? It is about what ought we to do. That's the first question. Second question is, why ought we to do it? Third question is, who is the we? And the fourth question, for the we, by what do we know that whatever you have written is credible? So the Anubandha Chatushtaya for the Dharmashastra, I posited that Apastambha's first 3 sutras contain the Anubandha Chatushtaya, because he starts out with Athadas Samayacharikan Dharman Vyakhyasiyamaha Dharmagnya Samayah Pramanam Vedascha. Okay, so Dharma in this case he is saying is Achara. Samayacharikan Dharman, Acharas of the Samaya that are recognized as Dharmas. Those are the ones that are the topic of the Dharmashastra. And who is competent to talk about it? Dharmagnya Samayah Pramanam. So we have to go into each of these words, which is what I did. So in his commentary to this, Haradatta says, Atha Shabda Anantarye, Atha Shabdo Hetav. So Dharmashastra is not a general code of law or ethics. Only practices that affect ritual performance fall within its scope because of what he loads behind Atha and Ataha. Okay, and what is this Samaya? Samaya is Paurusheyi Vyavastha. It's a man-made institution. But what is that institution? It is not just any institution. It is a specific resolution of disputes or differences in practices. So when you look up the meaning of Vyavastha, This is one of the meanings, and this is the meaning in which it is used. Samaya is the consensus that people sit together and discuss and say, okay, this is the way we want to go. Samayamula acharaha, samayacharaha, teshu bhavaha, samayacharikaha, evam bhutan dharman. So this is what I meant earlier when I said samayacharas are customary practices. And they are declared by agreement to be norms for the samaya. And they are called dharmas because dharmo dharma sadhanam. It's an instrument to obtain dharma. And the dharma for in our case is a very specific, it has a very specific meaning, and that is expressed by the Mimamsa Sutra. And you'll see it in Artha Sangraha, for example, in the first passage, he explains Yagadireva Dharmaha. And by Yagadi, what it means is Yaga, the material used for it, and so on and so forth. So that is Dharma for the purposes of this Samaya. And this Samaya is therefore called Varnashrama Dharma. So Varnashrama Dharma is a specific religious order. Brahmins, and the I basically means, it's the kinship cluster. Brahmins as a kinship cluster do not as a whole fall into Varnashrama Dharma. They have to opt into it. And even at its, even in its heyday, Varnashrama Dharma counted only a minority of the Brahmin kinship cluster amongst its members. It has implications for the mapping of Varnas, what it means, who it applies to, right? The core of their theology was that they said offering oblations in the sacred fire, Yagadi. This is Dharma. We don't have to go out and become mendicants. We can be married, stay at home, and follow a certain kind of married asceticism. So it's a very exacting religious order. It has its rules, and those rules are the ones that you see in the Dharma Shastra. There's a little more detail that I went into to show that this is linked to Yaga and very specific ways of interpreting what Dharma is. Apurvakya, that is what invokes the Mimamsa's dictum. And what you see up there is commentary by Haradatta.
The details are great. I don't know how long your presentation exactly goes for, but please.
It'll be another 2 minutes, I think. So, Dharmagnya Samayaha. Now, the question is, we know what Samaya is, we know what Dharma is. Now, Dharmagnya, often Western commentators say this means it's kind of circular. This specifies dharmas, and dharmas are to be validated by Dharmagnyas. That is not the case. The Dharmagnya here is twofold. One is the knowledge of the Dharma Shastra, of the customs, of the norms. But more importantly than that, the Dharma that is propounded by the Veda. Yaga helps you accrue Dharma. And in order to do that, there are certain things that you have to follow exactly. If you don't, then it can turn against you, right? So Dharmagnya here means they understand all the practices related to conducting yagas, all the details therein. And therefore, he says, Dharmagyaha ye manvadayaha tesham pramanam. So it cannot be Buddha or Jaina for the purposes of this religious order. They also talk about Dharma, but Dharma, as they speak about it, is not Dharma as we speak about it in Varnashrama Dharma. So that is what he's clarifying here. And then he says Vedascha. And this is to put guardrails. You can't just have 10 experts sit together and decide something that does not have a basis in the Veda, or that is contradicted by something in the Veda. Then that leads to entropy. So therefore, Vedascha. So what is the Dharma Shastra then? It's all this. It's the customary practices, the resolution of those practices whose validity or application was questioned or disputed, And the resolution is done by agreement among recognized Dharma experts. Not meant to be a comprehensive catalog. That is why when you look at the Dharma Shastra, it seems fragmentary. The only section that is relatively full, relatively unchanging, is the Achara section and the Prayaschitta section. The others, Vyavahara section, keeps changing. And you can see as time went by, Achara stayed there, and the Dharma Shastra books talked more and more about Vyavahara, which indicates that there's changing political situations and so on and so forth. The prayojana is to help individuals maintain ritual fitness for yaga. Jurisdictional context, the V is the members of the Varnashrama order. That means the 4 Varnas, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, are all from the same kinship cluster and all members of the religious order. And that's an important point to counter the narrative that Dharma Shastra created the caste system, which is total bunkum. Brahmana, in the specific context of the Dharma Shastra, as a varna means Brahmanishtaha. Brahma, Shayanacharya says, is Shruti. So if you want to conduct a yajna, you have to be really competent with the Shruti. And that is why they say Brahmananam Artvijam. One who knows the Shruti well is the only one who can conduct a yaga. It is not a discriminatory thing. It's a job description. All right. And the doctrinal context, we see it rests on the consensus of Dharmanovars and Vedas. These are the things that help the Dharma Shastra evolve over time. So this is ultimately the conclusion that I presented. With Ankurji's permission, if there is time and if there are questions, I'm happy to answer. If not, you can also contact me by email.
Wow, Sridharji, that was amazing. The coherence of it, the way that you presented all of it, it brought it all together and very beautifully put together. One of my favorite quotes is language is the old growth forest of the mind, right? Taking all these abstract concepts that Sanskrit is able to and then expound it, it shows the depth of thinking that has accumulated over time, and it's a forest. And again, try to cut it down, but we're regrowing it.
And this helped because, see, this was my term project, believe it or not. And so I had all the guidance that I needed to actually dig in and kind of question my premises. And, without help from, Suryanarayanaji, who was my HUA guide at the time, and my classmates, among whom Sriram Mahodaya is generally the biggest devil. They have all helped get it to a shape.
No, wonderful. Yeah. I'm sure Sriramji, you have a whole PowerPoint and presentation you could have gone into, and Hemashriji as well. Maybe we can have you on in the future and continue to have our own HUA students use this platform to present their ideas. I'm sure people are interested, and we can continue that. But hopefully in the future we can do more of this, Sridharji. That was great. Glad that you were able to present. Ashutoshji, now you have 2 presentations.
Ankurji, if I may interrupt, there was a question about somebody wanting the slides. I'm happy to share my slides, and I would imagine the same, but Hemashriji and Sridharji, if you're okay with it. So Ankurji, you can answer that officially if you're going to make the slides available or not. But me personally, I'm happy to share my slides.
Great. It's on you specifically, but what we can also do is, if you are willing to share, we can just load it up to maybe some sort of.
There's a question from Len saying, will these slides be available after session? And then on YouTube as well, but I would imagine YouTube is probably they're referring to the recording of the session. But if the slides they want, if there's a way for you to send the audience, then we can do that.
Yeah, we will send a recording of this webinar, and along with that recording, maybe links to the Sanskrit programs and some of the other stuff, but we can also link to the presentations that you want to share. All right. So we can do all of that. Great. Yeah, thank you. Now, Dr. Parekh, which one do you want to share first? I think we will only have time for one.
Yes, definitely. Time for one, then we should do for Bharatasya Naveen Rashtriya Shiksha Nitau Bharatiya Jnan Paramparayaha Samuthane विधीयमान संस्कृत प्रयासानां समीक्षात्मक विवेचना. I think we should go for this. Is it possible?
Yeah.
Or I can share from here also. So there is no problem. Okay, you have shared.
All right. Good?
Yes,
Okay.
definitely. So first of all, I am very much thankful. Ankuji tried to call me first, but I think Shri should be first. So Hema Shri ji, Shri Ram ji, and Sridhar ji. So Shri should be first. So their charge was the first. So God has given that opportunity automatically. So thank you very much for the great presentation by you all. And definitely I had the opportunity to present two research papers that reflect my deep engagement with both traditional wisdom and contemporary educational discourse. And one will be presented here, and second was the contribution of Maharshi Dayanand Saraswati to promote Sanskrit through Vedic study, a historical and critical analysis. So we are not talking about this presentation, but we are talking about the second presentation which we are going to attend this. Uh, First of all, which is very important, that prayojanam is very important. Okay, prayojanam anuddeshya mando apina pravartate. This is the very famous quote in Sanskrit. And when we are talking about the Sanskrit language, the prayojanam is very much important in every aspect, every era. So why should we learn Sanskrit? Why Sanskrit is important? This question arises every time. So we have to answer these type of questions every time. And then what is requirement? That yojakas tatra durlabha, connector, who can connect. Sanskrit can connect the society, but the connector is very tough, very difficult. How we can connect the society with Sanskrit language? So this is the very important aspect for Sanskrit language, and how we will promote the Sanskrit language to the society. So this time, when we talk about the Indian National Education Policy 2020, that create a connection with Sanskrit and society. So this education policy is very important about the Indian education system also, and about the Sanskrit education system also. So you can see some in the slide that the topic is about the भारतस्य नवीन राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीतौ भारतीय ज्ञान परंपरायाः समुत्थाने विधीयमान प्रयासानां समीक्षात्मक विवेचना, a critical review of the emerging Sanskrit efforts in the Indian knowledge systems within India's new education policy. So there are three terms are very important. First is National Education Policy 2020, second is Sanskrit language, and third is Indian knowledge systems. So these are the connectors who can create a great collaboration of Sanskrit language to create a good journey to the society. So when you can see a mantra is there, samani va akutihi samana hridayani vah samanamastu vo mano yatha vah susahasati. If we are working as coexistence, cooperation, equality, and avoiding conflicts, then only we can move forward. If we are not doing like this, then the society will not work as the society should work. So Vedic thought have inspired human to move forward with all these qualities. So next slide we can go, Ankurji. This is not required. Basically, this is okay. Leave this slide also, because we have a limited time. Leave this slide also. You can go for next slide. Okay. So first of all, what is the Indian knowledge system? Indian knowledge system is generally we are using the word IKS for this the terminology, and this system is a holistic indigenous approach to knowledge that is deeply rooted in Indian culture, philosophy, and practices. It includes various systems such as Ayurveda, Yoga, Vedas, classical literature, art, and architecture. Indian knowledge system means the wide range of ancient Indian applicable knowledge. It was the applicable knowledge. So this applicable knowledge is also useful in this modern era also, and we have to work according to that. And for this, Sanskrit language is very important. Indian knowledge system is not only in Sanskrit languages, it also associated with other languages, other Indian languages also. But the Sanskrit language is very important for this aspect. Okay, sir, next slide. So when we're talking about Sanskritam, what is Sanskritam? Sanskritam नाम किम? संस्कृत भाषा का. This is the शास्त्रीय भाषा, व्यावहारिकी भाषा, वैज्ञानिकी भाषा, व्यावसायिकी भाषा, and the last is, but not the least, we can say mama bhasha, mama hridayasya bhasha, mama atmanah bhasha. So when we talk about Sanskrit language, we should try to find out all the aspects of this language. When we go to according to these aspects, definitely Sanskrit is very much useful for all era, all ages. Okay, next. Can go for the next. Okay, okay, this is sufficient. When we talk about the Rashtriya Shiksha Niti, this is the Sanskrit quotation about from the Rashtriya Shiksha Niti, National Education Policy. You can all see the National Education Policy 2020 draft, because this is very important draft for Sanskrit, not only Sanskrit, but about the complete education system of India, which is going to be changed. And you can see here that written भारतस्य शास्त्रीय भाषाणां साहित्यस्य महत्त्वं प्रासंगिकतां सौन्दर्यं च कदापि हेयदृष्ट्या वीक्षितुं न शक्यते. संस्कृतं संविधानस्य अष्टमानुसूच्यां वर्णिता महत्त्वपूर्णा आधुनिक भाषा विद्यते. We should listen Sanskrit also, because if we are listening Sanskrit, then we can speak Sanskrit. So there are the four basically sopanani for language learning. One is listening, second is speaking, then is reading and writing. So if we are listening Sanskrit again and again, that will definitely be beneficial for us. And when we talk about Sanskrit language, then asya sahityam, the language of Sanskrit literature, is very विशालम, अति विशालम. लैटिन ग्रीक साहित्यम मेलयित्वा तुलना क्रियते चेदपि समानता न भवति. This is saying our Indian national education policy. When we talk about the education policy in earlier time of India, Sanskrit was there in those education policy also, but this type of thinking, this type of thought was not there. So in this policy, we can find that Sanskrit and the Indian education system is going through the ancient education system also. So they are talking about the 21st century skill, but they are talking about also the ancient education system and ancient sciences also. So the written is संस्कृत साहित्ये गणितम, दर्शनम, व्याकरणम, संगीतम, राजनीति, चिकित्सा, वास्तुकला, धातु विज्ञानम, नाटकम, कविता, कथा. So many things are available in this Sanskrit language. Okay, so please go to the next slide. I'm not completing every slide because this is not this is not possible in a limited time. So when we talk about NEP 2020 and Sanskrit, so you can find all these things. Sanskrit is the soul of Indian education system. These all are quotes from the national education policy. Sanskrit is a prominent language among other classical language of India. In NEP, there are 23 times Sanskrit word used. And they are saying that Sanskrit is the window to Indian knowledge system. They are also saying Sanskrit has a great source of literature, philosophy, and science. And again, they are saying that we have two type of system to teach Sanskrit. One is simple standard Sanskrit, Saral Manak Sanskritam, and second is Sanskrit through Sanskrit, Sanskrit Madhyamena Sanskritam, Sanskritena Sanskritam. So we can teach Sanskrit through Sanskrit, and second is Saral Manak Sanskritam. So there are two types of teaching, two way of teaching Sanskrit might be possible. Okay, next slide. So there are many more quotations you can see here in this slide. So where Sanskrit words is coming and about the Sanskrit they are saying. So we are not talking about much all these things, but the India is the languages of India. Okay, and in that India, Sanskrit has a prominent place. So we all should talk about this Sanskrit language to to make a modern, basically a Viksit Bharatam. The concept is Viksit Bharatam is also there. Okay, please next slide. So you can see some more quotations from the National Education Policy, and then when they say all about these things, then Sanskritam Dwaram Asti. Sanskrit is the door or a gateway for Anveshanasya Shodhasya cha. असीमित संभावनानां भाषायाः सुदृढ़ अभिव्यक्त्यः वैज्ञानिक तार्किक विचारणा. So when we say that Sanskrit non-translatable, then Sanskrit is very much required. So we can read the Sanskrit concepts in different languages, but when we read those concepts in Sanskrit language, through the Sanskrit language, then the interpretation, then the quality of thinking or thought process are very much different. So Sanskrit is non-translatable. Okay, next slide, please. So how they are working in Indian education system? They are changing curriculum. They are trying to do more researches in Indian knowledge system. They are trying to documentation. They are trying to teaching all these subjects through the collaborative studies. They are trying to teacher training program. They are making more collaboration with Indian knowledge system and the modern sciences, and student engagement with the all other things that could be make Indian knowledge system to the main part of society. Okay, please next slide. So the goal is basically create and connect. We can create something and we can connect something, and for that what is required, we have to reset, reflect, and rise. Reset, what we have to reset, we have to reset our mind, we have to reset our mindset, which was the colonial mindset. So reset our mindset, and after that we will get the Indian knowledge system in our education as well as in our society, and it will definitely reflect, and when it will reflect, definitely we can rise. So reset, reflect, and rise is the goal of this education society, education system. So we should create a new system of education, and when we will create, definitely a good connection will be, bonding will be there in society and in Sanskrit language also. Okay, please next slide. Okay, please leave this. Okay, I gave some example because this is the example very famous. Samsung, you know about the Samsung company, but we don't know that what Samsungs do. This is very general company, and we know about this company, but we don't know that this company uh, comprises around 80 companies, and they are doing many more things. This is not only a mobile or TV company or an electronics company. So when the something is with us, then also we don't know what is this, then how we can understand the Vedas if we don't read all these things, if we don't understand all these things. So what we have, we don't know completely. We don't have these books in our home. So how can we understand, interpret all these scriptures? So these scriptures are very important. We have to connect, create with our home. So these are the system, mentor system and student system was there, and jnanam dhana prayoga, it means ananda. If we want to create ananda, jnanam and prayoga avashyak hai. Jnanam bharatiya prachin sahitya asti, and prayoga, we have to make it applicable in this modern era also. So Vedas are very important, but if we can't implicate in this time, we can't get ananda. So there are more examples we can see. Okay, please next slide. Okay, next slide. These are all much more examples, and sustainable development and many things are here, and everything might be possible by the Sanskrit literature. So this was the reason. And okay, please next slide. I'm skipping these slides, but only you can see these slides because these are the important slides. And literature in ancient India is very important. Classical literary forms are very important, and literature is epistemology. We have to work all these systems. We have to follow all these systems if we want Indian tradition should be prominent place in today's era. Okay, please next slide. So approaches in research methodology to explore Indian knowledge systems, there are four way we can do that. One is textual analysis, second is historical and critical method, third is comparative studies, and fourth is interdisciplinary method. Okay, please next slide. And literary work in our system, we can see that Vedas and Upanishads are there, Puranas and epics are there, Bhakti and Sufi poetry. Sufi poetry is also connected with the Sanskrit Sahityam. And regional and folk literature is also there, which is coming from basically from Ramayana, Mahabharatam, and other stories which were in Sanskrit literature. Okay, please next slide. So we can connect all these things. The connection is very important. Okay, please leave this slide. We can go for the next slide also. Okay, so when we're talking about Sanskrit literature, we have to make a critical thinking of the ideas, reading different literatures, draft all the selected readings, compare, contrast, and evaluate, arrange in standard format. Standard format is very much required because modern era is talking about a format. We can create a new format also, but what is the standard format at present in this modern era? We have to arrange all these things in that standard format also, so that the society in modern era can connect easily with these Indian knowledge systems. Okay, please next slide. Okay, please next slide. Okay, and what has been done till date? There are many Bharatiya Jan Paramparaya Anusandhan Kendrani. So IKS centers established, and more IKS centers are going to be established in this year also. So, and there are more teacher training centers for the IKS, only for IKS. They are creating all these things, and there are more language centers are established in India. So these centers will be very important for IKS and Sanskrit connection. Okay, please next slide. There are some more options are there, and you can find all these things. They are available on online and offline way, so we can do accordingly. Okay, so this is the innovative idea how we can create a Sanskritam Sarvatra. First is Indian knowledge system. We have to go to the Indian knowledge system. Then we can try to speak Sanskritam, Sanskrit Sambhashanam. And when we connect with Sanskrit and when we connect with sciences of Indian knowledge system, then the Anandayakam Sanskritadhyanam, Sanskrit will be no burden for anyone. It will be enjoyable Sanskrit for everyone. And when the Sanskrit will be enjoyable, then definitely Sarvatra Sanskritam is Sambhavam. There is no problem. Okay, please next. So there are some more examples are there. I think and this is sufficient for all of us. And this is from Atharveda, the Medha and Sumati. These three powers are very much required in this era. We are emphasizing only the. It means power of learning, but Medha and Sumati is not there. These are also required, and Sanskrit literature easily can give to us all these two powers, power of retention and power of discrimination. Okay, please next. I think time is going on, so we can end this slide, Ankurji. So I have told about all these things, that how should be a research, how should be a center work. All these things are here. In the and at the conclusion, we can get these points. Policies changed, but the mindset is not changed. So we have to change our mindset also. Second, there is a need to expand the research framework beyond Western epistemology to include indigenous systems of knowledge. So the collaboration is very much required. And third, Sanskrit literature offers a unique avenue for accessing the philosophies and the word wise inherent in Indian tradition. Fourth, the efforts for incorporating Sanskrit through Indian knowledge systems will take a long way. This is a long journey. This is not a short journey. So we have to work in full patience, and we have to work regularly, continuously. Fifth, checkpoints should be developed for the next levels. This is very much required. Checkpoints that we are going in a good direction or not. Sixth, integration of for the whole system is very much required. And last, this is not only a policy, this is a journey, and we all have to prepare for this great journey. So a preparation is very much required, and some future directions also they are given in this slide. So thank you very much. Dhanyavadah bhavatbhyah sarvebhyah. And in the end, I can say that Kritva Navadrida Sankalpam. This is the song basically. So Kritva Navadrida Sankalpam Vitaranto Nava Sandesham Ghatayamo Nava Sanghatanam Rachayamo Navamitihasam Kritva Navadrida Sankalpam. If we can create Navadrid Sankalpaha, then definitely we can create a new history also. And national education policy through Indian knowledge system, through Sanskrit language is going to create a new history. And we all have to go together for this work, for this target also. So, Dhanyavadaha, Namo Namaha, Shubham Bhavatu.
Awesome. That really was a good presentation to end on just the importance of Sanskrit, what's going on, where it's being developed, how it's being developed, and you know, very, very well said. Thank you so much for that. And we at Hindu University of America want to be a part of it, right? We've got multiple Sanskrit programs. The teacher training is something that we want to get into as well at different levels. Maybe Sanskrit in high schools, right? English in America, right? There's language requirements. And I know there's some initiatives, people reach out to me or HUA and say, can we get Hindi? Can we get Sanskrit? Maybe that's another way to push this forward. But amazing. Thank you so much. Lots of positive energy. I have a couple of hands up, one from Kiana. Is it okay if we go a little bit longer? We usually want to keep these to an hour, but I think if we're here, we have a time for a few questions. Kiana, if you want to voice your questions. Yeah, so we're gonna take a few questions and then hopefully hear from each of our panelists and some closing thoughts. And we'll, as always, I appreciate everyone being on. Thank you for taking a few extra minutes and staying on with us. We have Kiana Ji. Can you unmute? Kumugupta Ji, and any other questions in the Q&A box? We have a few.
Yeah, hi. This is Kumu from Boston. Happy Janmashtami. I joined just at the end. I didn't know you had this today, but so my question is, I think you went over it very quickly and I missed it. What is the connection of Samsung to Sanskrit? I asked because I'm a
Oh,
semiconductor
that
person.
was just an example of how you need to get to know something before you actually know something, right? Samsung, you know it only in your daily life, but it has so many different companies and aspects. So it was just kind of an example. Yeah, Len, let's hear. Thank you, Kumuji, as always, for being on. Sorry that you came on late. Len and Kiana, you're up next. You should be able to unmute.
All right. Thank you. That was so informative. I want to applaud every speaker, and I like what the latter person said, create new history. And I'm going to kind of talk fast. Reset, connect, rise. And I'm going to speak from how I witnessed in high school the Spanish language in America being incorporated into regular life, mainstream. When I took Spanish in high school, it was considered only a Romance language, and even into college. And if you became a teacher, okay, well, that's great. We always need high school Spanish teachers. But during the course of my lifetime, I saw, and particularly moving to Los Angeles, I saw the language, which was already there, but even become more mainstream. And do you know why? Because Hispanics, there was more immigration, and they started working in hospitality more. They started doing construction. They started doing what you would call blue collar work. And because there had to be a line of communication, and then they started bringing their grandparents, and a lot of spouses were able to bring the other member, right? But it was all tied to basically job economy and capitalism. And my suggestion, which I didn't hear and maybe just didn't hear it, was if you connect Sanskrit to economy and how this will grow the Indian economy, because, you know, as we know with the tariffs in America, I never understood how much Hispanic economy in America was being sent to Central America and Mexico. And it was like in the billions, right? So that just tells you how, and that's not including what was left in this country. But I just wanted to speak to that.
Yeah, somebody else has got something in the background. Len, that's a great point. Thank you for being on and sharing it. And also connecting it to the other language. That was very interesting. Maybe we can hear from our panelists. Vijayji, thank you for your thanks and your recognition. Yeah, I think we should do webinars with each of our panelists so that they can have a full time to present and engage with the audience. We are kind of closing up on time, but Len, that was great. I'll give our guests, our panelists, our HUA students, they're not guests, they're family, right? And faculty, an opportunity to comment on your comment, and I think that, and make some closing statements and thoughts. And as always, it's my pleasure. And so let's go around in a circle. Again, Len, thank you for that last comment. Very interesting. And then I don't know what order we want to go in, but let's make a last round of comments, suggestions. If anybody wants to end on a particular mantra or shloka, we could do that as well. All right. Shriramji, you want to go first?
I just want to thank you all for attending and thank you for this opportunity. So appreciate that. And we shared some links about Sanskrit programs. Please follow up. And we're also happy to share our PPTs as a follow-up. But in general, thank you again. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity, Ankurji. Thank you, HUA.
Thank you so much, Shriramji. Could have definitely looking forward to having you on for your own webinar. Hemashriji, how about you next?
Yeah, I think I said all of it in my previous presentation, but thank you all for being here. And thank you to HUA staff, teachers, students for all of your support through this journey that we've been on. Thank you.
Thank you, Hemashriji. No, I think a lot of us want to hear more from you. You were very powerful in a few minutes, and I think we do want to hear more from you, our audience, definitely. You can see some react emojis, but Hemashriji, we'll definitely have you on so you can present more fully. I know you've done a lot of research and work across a lot of fields. Sridharji, let me hand it to you.
Well, it was great hearing from the others. And I especially liked how Len brought it home in terms of, you know, how do we move this 10 steps forward. A great experience.
Thank you, Sridharji. Ashutoshji? And you can end it for us. Wonderful having you on, all of you. Thank you so much.
धन्यवादः तथा अहम् अन्ते तु संस्कृतेन एव वदिष्यामि अतः हिन्दू यूनिवर्सिटी आफ् अमेरिका विश्वविद्यालयस्य कृते अहं धन्यवादम् अर्पयामि यतोहि अयम् अवसरः अस्ति यदा वयं संस्कृतेन योजकरूपेण संयुक्ताः भवितुं शक्नुमः संस्कृतं कठिनं नास्ति संस्कृतं सरलम् अस्ति संस्कृतभाषा यदि वयं पठामः संस्कृतं यदि वयं जानीमः तेन अस्माकम् अन्याः भाषा अपि विकसिताः भविष्यन्ति अतः संस्कृतेन विकासस्य परम्परा भवति सर्वेषां विकासस्य अतः एव उक्तं सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः they are not saying that I should be happy all should be happy so the parampara of for all is from Sanskrit literature very easily we can see so these Vedas these Upanishads these Ramayana Mahabharat Aranyak Brahman Anya Kalidas Bharavi Magh they all should be learned by ourselves and HUA is doing a great effort to promote Sanskrit language in every sphere. So this is very important. अतः संस्कृत माध्यमेन यदि कथयितुं शक्नुमः तर्हि संस्कृतस्य आस्वादनम् आनन्दः अवश्यं प्राप्नुयुः संस्कृतेन आनन्दः भवति संस्कृतेन जीवनस्य परिवर्तनं भवति अतः ये अपि जीवनं परिवर्तयितुम् इच्छामः ते अवश्यं संस्कृतं पठन्तु संस्कृतस्य आस्वादनं गृह्णन्तु अतः भवद्भ्यः सर्वेभ्यः धन्यवादः नमो नमः शुभं भवतु पुनर्मिलामः
Thank you all. Good day.